She'll love you madly after this one move. Psychology tricks. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds. William Shakespeare. That headline sounds intense, so let's ground this in something real. This isn't about being cold, manipulative, or negging. It's about a dynamic many men miss, how your self-respect and emotional steadiness shape how she experiences you. Here's what changes everything. Most guys try to win a woman by feeding her ego nonstop, constant compliments, instant availability, quick reassurance, always agreeing, always chasing. It feels loving, but it often lands as predictable. And predictable gets filed under safe, but not exciting. What she's drawn to isn't a man who worships her, it's a man who knows himself. When you get this right, something shifts. She can't read you in 5 minutes. She doesn't feel like you're auditioning for her approval. She senses you have standards, a spine, and a life that doesn't orbit her mood. And that makes you feel rare, because most men are easy to categorize. The key idea is balance. How you respond to her ego, without feeding it or crushing it, creates attraction. If you constantly inflate her, you accidentally teach her, "I'll do anything to keep you pleased." That's not romance. That's negotiation. The one move is simple but powerful. Stop rewarding everything. Start rewarding what you genuinely respect. That means you don't overpraise basic effort. You don't chase when she pulls back. You don't panic text when she's quiet. You do show warmth when she's real, kind, and present. You do give attention when she earns it through mutual energy, not because you're afraid to lose her. This isn't a game, it's leadership. You're communicating. I like you, but I'm not here to beg. I'm here to build something that feels right for both of us. And that's the separator. Men she forgets try to be chosen. Men she can't stop thinking about choose to. 1. The truth about her ego. Here's the uncomfortable truth you've been avoiding. Being too nice to her ego isn't respect, it's surrender, and it quietly drains the attraction right out of the room. Don't confuse politeness with approval. Be kind, yes, but don't become a walking standing ovation. Because if you think honoring her means never challenging her, you're paying for that belief with your confidence, your mystery, and eventually your chance with her. Picture it clearly. You compliment everything she does like you're grading on a curve. You nod along with every opinion as if disagreement is a crime. She posts a photo and you sprint to the comments like you're trying to win a prize, tossing heart eyes and goddess emojis like confetti. You never disagree, never push back, never tease, never pause, never make her wonder what you're thinking, because you're always thinking the same thing. Please like me. And here's the part that stings. Your worship doesn't feel like love to her. It feels like pressure, like predictability, like you're trying to buy closeness with constant agreement. That is not what creates desire. You must understand this about female psychology. Attraction isn't built on unlimited validation. It's built on emotional contrast, on the sense that you have standards, that you're grounded, that your approval is real because it isn't automatic. Don't hand her a crown every hour and then act surprised when she stops seeing you as a man and starts seeing you as a fan. Respect is not yes to everything. Respect is I see you and I still have my own spine. Respect is listening, then responding honestly. Respect is being warm without being absorbent. And when you remove all friction, when you never challenge, never question, never lightly call out something that doesn't add up, you don't become safe. You become invisible. Be steady. Be playful. Be direct. If she says something that doesn't make sense, don't swallow it. Say, hold on, explain that to me, with a grin, not a glare. If she fishes for compliments, don't bite every time. Give one sincere compliment, then move on. If she tests you with a little attitude, don't punish her, don't pout, don't grovel, stay calm and say, cute try. I'm still not playing that game. That is how you flip the dynamic without being harsh. Because the real move isn't some cheap line, it's a shift in how you show up. You stop acting like her opinion is the only thing that matters and start acting like your life, your values, and your self-respect matter too. And yes, it gets worse before it gets better, because when you change the pattern, she may notice the difference and poke it, she may joke, she may test, she may pull back slightly just to see if you'll chase like you used to. Don't. Be consistent. That is the point. If you collapse the moment she applies a little pressure, you prove you were never authentic, you were performing. But if you stay warm and firm, you teach her something powerful. Your attention is a gift, not a guarantee. This is one of the simplest psychology tricks that actually works because it isn't a trick at all. It's alignment. It's you acting like a man with standards. And when you do that, something interesting happens in female psychology. She starts to feel your presence instead of your pleading. She starts to wonder where she stands instead of assuming you're already beneath her pedestal. Don't misunderstand. This isn't about being cold. Be affectionate. Be present. Be generous. But you must add selectiveness. You must add honesty. You must add the subtle signal that you can walk away from what doesn't fit you. That's how to fall in love becomes real, because love requires two whole people, not one person bending into a pretzel to be accepted. Want a practical example? Next time she shares an opinion you don't agree with, don't argue like you're in court, smile and say, I see it differently, then briefly explain why, and move forward without needing her to approve your stance. Next time she posts a picture, don't be first in line with the parade. If you genuinely like it, send a simple, specific compliment later. That color looks great on you, and then go back to your life. Next time she talks about her day, don't try to fix everything or flatter everything. Ask one good question that shows you're paying attention, then share something about your own day too. Be a participant, not a pedestal builder. Because the moment she feels you have your own center, she relaxes into hers. The moment she senses you're not chasing validation, your validation starts to mean something. And if you're wondering why this matters so much, here's why. When a woman feels you'll approve no matter what, approval becomes noise. But when she feels your attention is earned through connection, integrity, and real chemistry, it becomes music. This is how to fall in love in the grown man version, quietly, steadily, with self-respect leading the way. Use psychology tricks the right way, not to manipulate, but to stop sabotaging yourself with automatic agreement. Learn female psychology not as a cheat code, but as a mirror that shows you what your behavior communicates. And if you want the simplest rule to carry with you, make it this. Don't be her echo. Be her match. Be calm. Be honest. Be a little unpredictable in the best way, warm, but not available on command. That is how to fall in love turns from a wish into an outcome, and it's why the more you worship her, the less she respects you, until you finally stop worshiping, start leading your own life, and give her something rare, a man who likes her, but doesn't lose himself just to prove it. 2. What's really happening? What's really happening here is subtle, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're not respecting her. You're pedestaling her. And deep down, she knows the difference, even if she can't explain it out loud. When you treat someone like they're perfect, like they can do no wrong, like their ego should never be questioned, you're doing something dangerous to the connection. You're removing all tension from the dynamic. And attraction dies in comfort. Don't argue with that. Look at your own life. Nothing you truly desired came from a place of total ease. Desire needs friction. It needs contrast. It needs the feeling that something meaningful is at stake. Think about it. Every person she's ever been obsessed with made her feel something unpredictable. They didn't hand her their approval on a silver platter. They didn't show up saying, I'm yours, just tell me what to do. They made her earn it through presence, through self-respect, through not folding when things got uncomfortable. They challenged her worldview without attacking it. They didn't crumble when she tested them. They stayed grounded. They stayed calm. They stayed themselves. And that's the part most men miss. But you? You're safe, predictable, always available, always validating, always there to boost her ego no matter what she says or does. And that is exactly why she doesn't feel anything for you. Comfort without contrast feels flat. Validation without standards feels empty. Attention without boundaries feels cheap, even when it's well-intended. Now, before you think this is telling you to be cold or careless, hold on. Because what I'm about to reveal is the exact opposite of what you think. This isn't about being rude. It isn't about withholding affection. It isn't about playing games. Be clear about that. This is about understanding how attraction actually works when two adults meet. Here's the reality. A healthy ego needs resistance. It needs to be checked from time to time. It needs to encounter someone who isn't afraid to see through the performance and still stay present. When you never challenge her ego, when you worship instead of relating to her as an equal, you're not showing respect. You're removing your own center from the interaction. And she can feel it. People always feel it, especially women who are emotionally intuitive. This is where being a high-value man quietly changes everything. A high-value man doesn't argue to win. He doesn't submit to be liked. He stands where he stands and lets the connection meet him there. That is masculine energy in its cleanest form. Calm, stable, self-directed. There is a specific moment where she decides you're not the one, and it happens earlier than you think. It's not after months. It's not after some dramatic conversation. It's often in a small moment that looks harmless to you. It's when she says something slightly exaggerated and you agree anyway. It's when she tests a boundary with a joke and you laugh it off even though it didn't sit right. It's when she watches you trade your honesty for approval. That's the moment. She doesn't announce it. She just adjusts. Her tone shifts. Her curiosity fades. And you're left confused, wondering why being nice didn't work. Don't miss this lesson. Be present enough to notice it next time. You must understand that attraction isn't about proving you're harmless. It's about showing you're solid. Think of it like this. When you put someone on a pedestal, you're not lifting them up, you're shrinking yourself. And no one feels drawn to someone who disappears in their presence. To attract women, you don't need louder confidence. You need quieter certainty. You need the ability to say, I like you, without saying, I need you. That difference changes the entire emotional atmosphere. This is why masculine energy isn't about force, it's about containment. It's the ability to hold your ground without hostility, to disagree without drama, to be warm without being porous. Be kind, be attentive, but don't abandon yourself to keep the peace. Peace without truth is just silence wearing a smile. When she encounters a man who doesn't rush to please, something interesting happens inside her. She feels seen, not flattered. She feels met, not managed. She senses that your attention is intentional, not automatic. That's when attraction wakes up. That's when she leans in instead of leaning back. And notice how different that is from manipulation. There's no trick here. The shift is internal. You stop asking, how do I get her to like me, and start living as someone who is already aligned. This is why the idea of a high-value man isn't about status or money. It's about self-orientation. A high-value man knows what he thinks. He knows what he feels. He knows what he will and won't tolerate. And he expresses that without apology. Don't pedestal her. Relate to her. Don't erase tension. Use it as information. Don't overvalidate. Be selective and sincere. You must let her experience you as a full person, not a supporting role in her story. When you do that, you naturally attract women who are ready for something real. And when she feels that grounded masculine energy, steady, honest, unforced, her nervous system relaxes in a way that comfort alone could never create. This is how attraction survives. This is how desire grows. And this is how you stop losing women before the connection even begins. 3. What actually draws her in? What actually draws her in is not constant praise, not endless agreement, and not chasing approval, because modern psychology and Old Stoic wisdom both point to the same truth. Attraction grows where self-respect lives. And when validation is overused, it loses all power. So if you want her attention to deepen and her interest to stay, you must lead interactions from certainty, not neediness, because as Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, and the quality of your thoughts shows up in how you speak, how you disagree, how you remain steady. So the first instruction is simple and firm. Stop agreeing with everything she says, not to provoke conflict, not to argue for sport, but because you're a man with an iron mind and a point of view. And when you calmly say, I actually see it differently, or I don't think that's accurate, without apology or tension, you demonstrate self-command, and self-command is magnetic. Because you are no longer auditioning, you are presenting yourself as you are, take it or leave it, and that grounded certainty activates curiosity instead of comfort, which is where attraction lives. But you must understand this deeply. Disagreement only works when it is authentic, measured, and relaxed because forced opposition signals insecurity, while calm honesty signals confidence, and confidence is timeless, echoed by Epictetus when he said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery shows in restraint, tone, and timing, not volume or force. So you disagree when it matters, you stay silent when it doesn't, and that balance is Stoicism win in real life. Especially in a world flooded with men who mirror opinions just to be liked. Now move to the next instruction. Don't always be impressed, because admiration given too freely loses meaning, and when she shares an achievement. You acknowledge it without fanfare and continue the conversation because impressive men recognize value without worshiping it. They respect effort without surrendering their frame, and when you say, "That's good, what's next?" you signal that excellence is normal in your world, not rare, and this shifts how she sees you instantly because you are no longer reacting, you are evaluating, and as Seneca said, "He who is brave is free, free from the need to overreact." Free from the urge to elevate others above himself, and this calm recognition without exaggeration aligns with Old Stoic wisdom and modern social dynamics at the same time, because it positions you as a peer, not a spectator, and peers create chemistry. Next instruction, call out behavior playfully and directly, because clarity beats emotional reactions every time. So when she exaggerates, you smile and say, "You're being extra today." When she seeks reassurance, she already knows the answer too. You calmly respond, "You already know," and when she tests your mood, you stay level and say, "Is this the approach today?" Because this is not about control. It's about boundaries, and boundaries create safety, and safety mixed with confidence creates attraction, because you are steady, not reactive, and steadiness is rare in modern life filled with distraction and emotional noise. And that rarity is felt instantly, because as Nietzsche observed, he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow, and your why here is self-respect, clarity, and presence, not approval, not applause, not validation. This entire approach works because it aligns with human psychology. You challenge without hostility, you acknowledge without excess, you engage without attachment, and that balance tells her one thing clearly: you are centered, and a centered man leads interactions naturally. And leadership is not loud, it is consistent, it is calm, it is decisive, and it comes from an iron mind trained by reflection, restraint, and repetition, which is why practicing this daily matters, because every conversation is training, every pause is practice, every moment of restraint builds strength, and that strength shows, and when it shows, people respond differently, women included, because energy follows certainty, and certainty follows discipline. And discipline is the quiet advantage most men ignore. Even though Stoicism win has always favored those who master themselves first. Bring this into modern life by slowing your responses, reducing over explanation, and trusting silence, because silence often speaks confidence louder than words, and when you combine silence with direct speech, light humor, and firm standards, you create an emotional environment where attraction can grow without pressure, without chasing, without games, and that is the victory. The calm win, the composed success rooted in Old Stoic wisdom, reinforced by modern psychology, and executed through an iron mind that does not bend for approval but remains open, grounded, and intentional. Because when you master this, you don't just change how she responds, you change how you walk, speak, and think, and that inner shift is what makes everything else follow. If this hit home, don't just nod and scroll, act. This is about stepping out of approval seeking and into calm certainty, the kind that changes how every interaction feels. So do this right now. Drop a comment that says, "I lead with self-respect and calm confidence." Claim it publicly. Like this video, subscribe for more sharp psychological insight, and remember this every day: attraction grows when you stop proving and start standing firm. 4. Create space when she expects attention. Here's a smarter way to understand that one move without turning it into a cheap trick, because the truth is this isn't about playing games. It's about psychology, timing, and self respect. And if you miss that, you miss everything. When she sends you a selfie clearly fishing for validation, pause. Don't rush, don't jump, don't hand over attention like spare change, because attention given too fast has no weight. And you must understand this deeply if you want to grasp real psychology tricks and how female psychology actually works in real life, not in fantasy advice. Replying later is not ignoring her, it's choosing your moment. Responding neutrally is not being cold, it's being grounded. And sometimes skipping it entirely is not rejection, it's leadership of your own emotional energy. And that is what quietly changes how to fall in love in a mature, lasting way. When she posts something online and you're instantly there every time. You blend into noise, but when you're not. The first one, when you're not always available to publicly boost her ego, something subtle but powerful happens because your validation stops being automatic and starts becoming meaningful. And that is not manipulation, that is human psychology. The same psychology tricks that govern value in every part of life. What is scarce is noticed. What is guaranteed is overlooked, and female psychology responds strongly to emotional contrast, not emotional flooding. Don't misunderstand this, don't. Disappear. Don't become distant for the sake of distance. Don't pretend not to care, because that is transparent and it collapses under pressure. Instead, be selective, be intentional, be calm. Because when she expects attention and doesn't receive it in the predictable way, her mind fills the gap. And that gap is where curiosity lives. That is where she starts wondering, not anxiously but thoughtfully, why isn't he reacting like everyone else? And that single question is the seed of intrigue, the beginning of emotional engagement, the quiet spark that separates men who are remembered from men who are merely present. You must see this clearly. Intrigue is not created by doing more, it is created by doing less with purpose. And that is one of the most misunderstood psychology tricks in modern dating, especially for men who have spent years being told that effort means constant availability, because effort without timing feels cheap, while restraint with confidence feels rare. And rarity reshapes female psychology in ways compliments never will. Don't perform, don't chase reactions, don't try to win approval in public spaces, be private with your attention, be slow with your praise, and be firm with your boundaries. Because boundaries are not walls, they are filters, and filters tell her you value yourself, and self value is contagious. It teaches her how to treat you without you ever having to demand it. Now pay attention to this, because this is where average men fade and unforgettable men stand out without raising their voice. When you stop reacting on cue, you reclaim your center, and from that center you choose when and how to engage, and that choice signals emotional strength without a single word. And that is exactly how to fall in love in a way that feels natural instead of forced, mutual instead of lopsided. This isn't about withholding affection, it's about pacing it. It's about understanding that attraction grows in space, not in pressure. And every serious study of female psychology points back to this simple truth. Emotion needs room to breathe, and when you give her that room, she steps forward on her own, not because she's pushed, but because she's pulled by curiosity and respect. Don't rush to explain yourself. Don't apologize for having a life. Don't overcorrect with extra messages later. Stay steady, stay warm, stay grounded, because steadiness is magnetic, especially in a world of emotional oversharing. And that steadiness is one of the most effective psychology tricks there is when used with integrity. Remember, you're not trying to impress, you're allowing her to discover, and discovery is far more powerful than persuasion. This is how female psychology builds attachment. This is how to fall in love without drama. And this is why that single move, creating space when she expects attention, works so well when done with maturity, clarity, and quiet confidence. Because it doesn't shout, it whispers, and whispers are always listened to longer. 5. The balance. The balance is not a tactic. It is a way of being, and you must understand this clearly before anything else makes sense, because when you do give her attention, it must carry meaning, weight, and intention. You're not ignoring her completely. Don't turn this into silence or absence. That's not strength. You're not being cold or cruel. That's not attractive, and it never has been. You're simply choosing when and how you show up, and that selectivity is one of the defining traits of a high-value man. Attention that is deliberate feels different from attention that is automatic. It feels earned instead of expected. And that difference changes everything. When you compliment her, slow down. Think. Don't reach for the obvious. Don't default to appearance just because it's easy. Make it specific. Make it real. Notice her mind when she connects ideas in a sharp or thoughtful way. Acknowledge her humor when it's effortless, not performative. Appreciate how she expresses herself, how she listens, how she sees the world. That is where a real connection forms. That is how you attract women who want to feel understood, not just admired. You're communicating something powerful without saying it directly. I'm paying attention, but I'm not desperate for your approval. That is masculine energy in its most natural form, grounded, calm, and self-directed. It doesn't rush. It doesn't chase. It doesn't need to announce itself. Show her that you see her, not the curated version she presents online, not the filtered highlights meant for everyone else, but the person underneath. That kind of attention lands deeply because it's rare. Most men look. Very few truly see. But here's the part that requires discipline. Don't do it constantly. Don't turn meaningful attention into background noise. Don't dilute its impact by repeating it too often. Make it rare enough that it stands out. Scarcity creates contrast, and contrast creates memory. When your words aren't guaranteed, they matter more. When your attention isn't automatic, it becomes something she notices instead of something she assumes. Be clear about this with yourself. Balance does not mean pulling away emotionally. It means pacing yourself. It means allowing space for desire to grow instead of suffocating it with excess. Many men, especially those who have lived long enough to value connection, make the mistake of overgiving too early. They think consistency means constant presence. It doesn't. Reliability is about showing up with intention. Availability is about being everywhere at once. A high-value man understands that difference, and women feel it immediately. That understanding is part of what allows you to attract women who respect your time, your energy, and your boundaries. Now pay attention to what happens when she starts leaning in, because this is where most men lose their footing. She begins reaching out more. She invests more. She asks questions. She makes time. And suddenly, old habits come rushing back. Don't let that happen. Don't revert to over-explaining, over-texting, or over-giving just because you sense momentum. That reaction comes from fear, not confidence. Stay steady. Stay centered. Stay consistent with your standards. Consistency is the proof of character. It shows her that your behavior wasn't an act, that your rhythm wasn't temporary, that your sense of self doesn't collapse when interest increases. Be the man who doesn't abandon his structure when attention flows his way. That steadiness communicates security without effort. It tells her you have a full life, that you value connection but don't depend on it for validation. That is deeply attractive, especially to women who are emotionally aware. This is masculine energy expressed through restraint, not force. Through clarity, not control. Through presence, not pressure. And yes, this is exactly how a high-value man continues to attract women without exhausting himself or compromising who he is. Remember this. You are not trying to impress her. Don't perform. Don't audition. Be. Allow her to experience you over time. Allow space for anticipation. Allow her curiosity to grow instead of flooding it with certainty. Attraction drives in balance, not excess. When your attention is thoughtful, selective, and consistent, it becomes memorable. When your standards don't shift just because she invests more, they become trustworthy. And trust is what turns interest into attachment. That is how you move from being pleasant to being unforgettable. Not by doing more, not by chasing harder, but by giving attention that matters, holding your center, and letting your masculine energy speak through calm consistency. This is how a high-value man shows up. This is how you attract women who see you, respect you, and want to stay. 6. The relation. What you are really hearing here is not manipulation, not a trick, not some cheap tactic, but a return to self-respect, and self-respect is the oldest currency of attraction there is, something men understood long before dating apps, long before social media, long before approval became addictive, because as Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And the quality of your thoughts improves the moment you stop shrinking to be accepted and start standing as an equal, not placing her above you, not turning her into a symbol, but meeting her eye to eye as a full human being with strengths, flaws, and agency, because attraction is never born from worship. It grows from mutual regard, from tension, from polarity built on respect, and if you have been chasing, overgiving, over-explaining, or bending yourself into shapes that are not yours, understand this clearly and calmly. You are not broken. You are simply out of alignment with Old Stoic wisdom that teaches a man to govern himself first, to cultivate an iron mind, to live by standards rather than impulses, and when you reclaim that center, you do not push her down, you invite her up. You signal without drama that you have a life, values, and direction that existed before her and will continue with or without her, and that is not cruelty, that is clarity, because as Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, meaning you must be willing to stop performing for applause and start acting from principle, especially in modern life where attention is traded like currency and validation is everywhere, yet fulfillment is rare, so the instruction is simple and firm. Stop pedestalizing. Stop asking silently for permission to be yourself. Stop treating her reactions as a measure of your worth, and instead choose your actions deliberately. Speak honestly. Disagree when necessary, and hold your ground. Without anger, without coldness, without fear, because calm strength speaks louder than persuasion ever will, and this is where Stoicism win becomes real, not as theory, but as practice, as daily behavior. As the quiet discipline of choosing self-command over emotional bargaining, because a man who does not need validation is not distant. He is grounded. He listens fully. He responds thoughtfully. He walks away from disrespect without theatrics. And paradoxically, this steadiness creates safety and attraction at the same time, especially now when chaos is normalized and emotional volatility is mistaken for passion. So take this into your modern routine, your work, your friendships, your fitness, your solitude. Build a life that does not revolve around being chosen, but around choosing well, because the men who understand this never chase. They decide, they invite, they allow, and that posture changes everything. As Nietzsche observed, he who has a why to live can bear almost. Anyhow, and your why must be self-respect, not winning approval, not avoiding loss, not proving something to anyone, and when you challenge her in healthy ways, when you do not rush to soothe every insecurity or agree with every opinion. You are not creating conflict, you are creating authenticity. You are showing her what partnership looks like with a man who respects himself enough to expect respect in return, and that expectation is felt instantly because people respond to how you see yourself before they respond to how you see them. So internalize this instruction deeply, repeat it mentally, live it physically. Stop needing, start choosing, stop orbiting, start leading your own life. Cultivate that iron mind through discipline. Through silence when silence is stronger, through speech when truth is required, lean again on Old Stoic wisdom that reminds you that control over self is the highest form of power. Let Stoicism win in your decisions, your boundaries, your pace. Because when you no longer center your worth on being wanted, you become wanted without trying, and this is the truth most never hear. The moment you stop reaching outward for completion is the moment others feel drawn to step into your world. Not because you demanded it, not because you chased it, but because you finally chose yourself, and that choice, made daily, calmly, decisively, is what makes her think, reflect, and desire, long after the noise fades. Hey, before you scroll, let me say this. I appreciate you being here and actually listening. That already says something about you. Now here's the straight, no-nonsense truth. Real attraction doesn't come from forcing a reaction or trying to control outcomes. It comes from how you carry yourself when no one's watching. Calm confidence, clear intentions, self-respect, When you move like a man who doesn't need approval, people naturally lean in. Not because you're playing games, but because you're grounded, consistent, and emotionally solid. The advice I want you to take seriously is this: stop chasing validation and start building presence. Speak with purpose. Listen more than you talk. Mean what you say and do what you say you'll do. When you respect your own time, boundaries, and direction, others feel safe respecting you too. That's not psychology tricks. That's real world dynamics that work every time. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about removing the weak habits that hide who you already are. Stay steady. Stay disciplined. Stay honest in how you show up. That's how attraction grows naturally and lasts. If this hit different, drop a comment with the word respect so I know you're ready to level up. And hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started. Seriously, if you made it this far, you're already ahead of 90% of guys out there.